The hotel keycard slid out of my husband's wallet and landed face down on our ultrasound photo, and the number on it was still warm from his fingers. My phone was already in my hand, because if I hesitated, he'd walk in, smile, and the lie would seal back up like it always did. The card had a logo I didn't recognize and a handwritten room number that looked like it had been scribbled in a rush. The front door lock clicked. I flipped the keycard over, shoved it under the edge of the placemat, and forced my face into something neutral while my heart tried to climb out through my throat. He came in with that practiced long day slump, kissed my forehead like I was furniture, and dropped his bag by the couch. His eyes went straight to the table, straight to my hands, like he could smell the fact that I'd been touching his secrets. "Hey," he said, "everything okay?" I smiled too fast. "Fine. You're home early." He didn't answer that. He went to the sink, ran water, washed his hands for too long, like he was scrubbing off someone else. His phone buzzed in his pocket. Not a ring, a muted vibration. He froze for half a second, then pulled it out, angled the screen away from me, and tapped something without looking. That tiny movement, the angle, the speed, hit me harder than any lipstick stain could have. He turned, caught me watching, and gave me the same calm face he used when he told our families we were trying for a baby. Calm even as he avoided my eyes. "Work?" I asked, because I wanted him to lie out loud. I wanted to hear how he would twist it. "Yeah," he said, too smooth. "Just stuff. Stuff. Like a keycard, like a room number, like the fact that I'd started counting his late nights on the calendar app the way some people count calories." He moved toward the bedroom, and I moved too, not thinking, just following the gravity of his pockets. "I'm going to shower," he said. "Of course," I said, and my voice came out sweet enough to rot teeth. He disappeared down the hall, and the moment the bathroom door shut, I pulled the keycard back out like it might burn me. The logo was embossed, expensive. The room number was written in black ink, but the ink had a faint smear, like someone's thumb had dragged across it in a hurry. Our ultrasound photo stared up at me, gray and ghostly, and I felt the sharp, sick thought: if I was wrong, I was going to destroy my own life for nothing. If I was right, it was already destroyed, and I just hadn't stepped into the rubble yet. I slipped into the hallway, barefoot, quiet. The shower turned on. His bag was open on the couch where he'd dropped it, and the zipper was half done, like he'd meant to close it and forgot. I reached in and felt around like a thief in my own house. I found a receipt, folded into a tight square. I unfolded it with shaking fingers. 2 cocktails, 1 dessert, 1 room charge deposit. The date was yesterday. He'd told me he'd been at his brother's, helping him move a couch. I held the paper up to the light like it might confess something else. It didn't. It just sat there, cold proof on thin white paper. The shower kept running. I crept into the bedroom and opened his dresser drawer where he kept spare cash and old cables and the kind of junk men refused to throw away. I wasn't even sure what I was looking for, which made it worse, because it meant I'd cross any line if it gave me one more piece. Under a tangle of earbuds, I found a tiny travel-size bottle of cologne. Not his usual. Too floral. Too sharp. The kind of scent that clings to someone else's skin. I put it back exactly where it was and stared at myself in the mirror. My face looked normal, which felt insulting. Like the world didn't care that my insides were screaming. The shower shut off. I moved fast, back to the kitchen, slid the keycard into my pocket, sat down, and picked up my coffee like I'd been doing nothing but sipping this whole time. He walked out with wet hair and a towel around his waist, relaxed. That was the part that made me want to throw something. He could rinse off betrayal and come out clean. He started dressing, and I watched his hands. I watched the way he checked his phone again and again, quick glances, like he was waiting for a green light from someone. A name floated up in my head like it had been trying to surface for weeks. Lila. Lila from his office. Lila who always commented on his photos. Lila who laughed too hard at his jokes when I'd gone to that company holiday party. Lila with her neat nails and her 2 white teeth and the way she'd said, "You're so lucky," while looking at him like she wanted to swallow him whole. I'd caught him texting her late one night and he'd told me it was about a project. I'd found one of her hairs on his coat once, and he'd said the office chairs were shared and it must have stuck. I'd seen her name pop up on his screen and he'd turned the phone over like it was nothing. Every clue in my head lined up into a neat, easy story. Husband cheats with coworker. Wife finds out. Wife cries. Wife leaves or doesn't. The end. Easy stories don't have hotel keycards. He came back into the kitchen fully dressed, smelling like fresh soap and that faint not his cologne he thought I wouldn't notice. "I'm going to swing by the office," he said, grabbing his keys. "At 8 at night?" I asked, and I couldn't keep the edge out of my voice. He didn't flinch. "We're behind." Behind. Like he was doing me a favor by lying efficiently. He leaned down to kiss my cheek, and I turned my head just enough that his mouth landed near the corner of my jaw. It was subtle. He probably didn't even register it as rejection, but he did register something, because his eyes narrowed just a fraction. "Are you sure you're okay?" he asked again. I held his gaze. "I'm sure." For a second, it felt like we were both standing on opposite sides of a trapdoor, each pretending it wasn't there. Then he smiled, soft, husband smile, and walked out. The door shut. The silence after him was loud. I didn't cry. I didn't call my best friend. I didn't sit on the floor and spiral the way I'd always imagined I would if this happened. I pulled the keycard out of my pocket, grabbed my coat, and followed him. I kept 2 cars behind, hands clenched so hard the steering wheel creaked. Every red light felt like the universe giving him time to disappear. Every green light felt like the universe daring me to keep going. He didn't go to the office. He drove past it without slowing. My stomach dropped like a stone, because now the lie didn't even pretend to be work. Now it was just motion. Now it was destination. He turned into a part of town I rarely went to, streets tighter, buildings taller, the kind of place where you could disappear in plain sight. He parked, checked his phone, then walked with purpose, like he knew exactly where he was going. I parked across the street and watched him from behind my windshield, my breath fogging the glass. He stopped outside an apartment building, buzzed in, and waited like this was routine. A woman could live there. Lila could live there. The story in my head tried to snap back into place, desperate for something familiar to hate. The door clicked, and he stepped inside. I counted to 5, then 10, then I got out and crossed the street with my hood up like I was hiding from the weather instead of my own marriage. The lobby smelled like clean stone and someone's expensive candle. The elevator dinged. I slid behind the mailboxes as the doors opened. He stepped in, alone, and the doors started to close. At the last second, another person slipped in with him. I only saw the back at first, broad shoulders, dark coat, close-cropped hair. Not a silhouette I'd been bracing for. Not heels, not long hair, not lipstick. The elevator doors shut, and through the narrowing gap, I caught my husband's face. He wasn't wearing his work expression. He was wearing the one he used when he was about to get what he wanted. The doors sealed with a soft, final click, and the lobby lights reflected in the polished floor like 2 shadows disappearing upward. The elevator numbers above the doors blinked upward like a countdown I couldn't stop. I stood in the lobby pretending to scroll my phone, but my screen was just a smear of light. My fingers were numb. My brain kept trying to shove the image into a safer shape. Maybe it was a neighbor, maybe it was a client, maybe I was losing my mind. Then the receptionist looked up and smiled like I belonged here. "Can I help you?" My mouth opened, and for a second nothing came out. If I said my husband's name, the whole building would suddenly have a story about me. If I said nothing, I'd lose them in the air. "I'm meeting someone," I said, too casually. I forgot the unit number. Her smile didn't change. "Do you have a name?" I did. I had his name. I had my name. I had a name I'd been chewing on for weeks, Lila, because that was the one that made sense. But the person in the elevator hadn't been a woman. I forced a small laugh, like I was embarrassed. "It's Mark. Mark Halden." The lie tasted like metal. Her eyebrows lifted in that polite way people do when they're about to correct you. "I'm sorry, we don't have." My stomach dropped. Then she glanced at her screen, clicked once, and nodded like she'd found something. "Oh, visitor log. He signed in earlier today." Signed in. Earlier. So this wasn't a random drop-by. This was planned enough to have a routine. My knees went hot, then cold. I swallowed. "Right. I'm just running late." She gave me the kind of look you give someone you assume is having an affair, and my face burned because the irony was so sharp I almost laughed. "Which unit?" she asked, still polite, still doing her job. The elevator numbers were still climbing somewhere above us. I had seconds before the doors opened and they stepped out into a hallway where I couldn't follow without looking like a stalker. "I'll just text him," I said, already backing away. "Thank you." I walked out into the street like my legs belonged to someone else. Outside, the air was colder than it had been 5 minutes ago. Or maybe my body just finally noticed I was shaking. I pressed my back to the brick wall and tried to breathe. He could be with Lila upstairs. Lila could be waiting in that apartment, and the man could just be a friend, a coworker, a ride, a delivery. My mind scrambled for a version where I wasn't watching my marriage fold in half. Then my phone buzzed. Not a text from him. A notification from our shared credit card app, something I'd set up months ago when we were being responsible. A charge. A bar 2 blocks away. 2 drinks. Right now. My throat tightened. He'd left the building already? No. The charge could be from earlier. It could be delayed. I could be. Another buzz. Same bar. Another charge. I stared at the screen until the letters blurred. My hands moved on their own, opening maps, typing the bar name, and suddenly there it was, a tiny glowing dot of my husband's phone location, because we'd turned it on after a road trip for safety. He was at the bar. Not upstairs anymore. I turned and walked like I was being pulled by a string. The bar was one of those places pretending to be classy, low lights, dark wood, the kind of music that makes you lean in. I paused outside the window and let my eyes adjust. I saw him instantly. He was hard to miss when you've built your life around his silhouette. He sat at a corner table with his back half turned to the window, one arm draped over the booth like he owned it. Across from him sat the man from the elevator. Up close, it wasn't broad shoulders anymore. It was a clean jawline, sharp haircut, expensive watch, and a posture that screamed confidence. He leaned in as he spoke, and my husband's face cracked open into that same want I'd seen through the elevator gap. Not friendly, not casual, intimate. I felt like I'd been punched in the ribs, not because it was a man, but because it meant every argument I'd had with myself had been useless. I'd been aiming my suspicion at the wrong target on purpose, because the truth felt too impossible to hold. My husband laughed, low and private, and the man reached across the table and touched his wrist. A touch that lingered. My stomach rolled. I gripped the window frame so hard my nails bent. Inside, my husband took a sip from his glass, then slid something small across the table, his car key fob, maybe, or a keycard. The man's fingers closed around it like it was normal, like they'd done this before. I stepped away from the window before my knees gave out. My breath came fast and loud in my ears, and for a second the street tilted. I pressed my palm to my mouth because my body wanted to make a sound that would undo me. I could walk in. I could throw the keycard at him. I could scream his name and watch the whole bar turn their heads. But then what? He'd say I was crazy. He'd say it wasn't what it looked like. He'd say I was invading his privacy. He'd say anything, and I'd be the woman in the doorway making a scene while he sat there calm and reasonable. That's what he was good at. So I stayed outside, and I watched like a witness gathering evidence at her own execution. The man smiled, leaned closer, and my husband's knee shifted beneath the table. Their legs pressed together. Then the man pulled out his phone and showed him something. My husband's expression changed, his smile dropped, his eyes flicked up, and for a moment he looked nervous. Good. Let him feel it. The man said something I couldn't hear, but my husband's shoulders tightened. He nodded quickly, like he was agreeing to terms. Terms. Like this wasn't romance. Like this was arrangement. The man stood first, slid out of the booth, and my husband followed like he was being led. They left cash on the table without waiting for a check. They headed toward the back of the bar, toward a hallway with bathrooms and a door marked staff only. I didn't think. I just moved. I pushed into the bar, my head still up, my heart slamming so hard it hurt. The warmth hit my face, the smell of alcohol and cologne and fryer grease. I kept my eyes down and walked past the hostess like I belonged, like I wasn't about to rip my own life open. The hallway was narrow. The music got muffled. Their voices echoed faintly ahead. I reached the staff-only door just as it swung shut. I pressed my ear to it like a lunatic. Silence. Then a low laugh, my husband's, unmistakable, followed by the sound of something bumping against a wall. My skin went cold. I pulled back, nausea rising, and I stared at the metal handle like it was the edge of a cliff. I could push it open. I could see. I could end the mystery right now. But the mystery wasn't the point anymore. The point was that he was doing this while coming home to me, to our ultrasound photo on the table, to the life he'd promised to protect. He wasn't just cheating. He was building a second reality and letting me live in the dark. My phone buzzed again, and I flinched so hard it almost slipped from my hand. A text. From him. Running late. Don't wait up. My vision went sharp and bright, like the world had been turned up too high. I typed back with shaking thumbs. Where are you? 3 dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. Then, office. Office. I looked at the staff-only door. I could hear my own pulse. I could hear the lie settle into place like a lock clicking shut. My hands were trembling so badly I could barely hold the phone, but I opened the camera anyway and hit record, pointing it at the door like a weapon. Because if I was going to fall apart, I was going to fall apart with proof. The door handle moved. It turned slowly, like whoever was inside didn't expect anyone to be out here. The door cracked open, and for a split second I saw my husband's face in the gap, flushed, mouth slightly open, eyes wide with the shock of being caught. Behind him, the man adjusted his collar like he had all the time in the world. My husband's gaze locked onto mine, and in that instant, the biggest lie wasn't the cheating. It was the way he looked at me like I was the intruder. The crack in the staff-only door widened, and my husband stared at me like I'd walked in on his life by mistake. My phone was still up, recording, the little red dot blinking like a heartbeat. He reached for it on instinct, a quick grab, the same reflex he had when I used to tease him by stealing fries off his plate. Except this time his fingers were sharp, desperate. I jerked my hand back, and the door swung open fully. The man behind him didn't look surprised at all. He looked amused. His collar was crooked in that casual way that isn't casual, and he straightened it slowly, like I was a minor inconvenience between him and the rest of his night. My husband's voice came out low and furious. "What are you doing here?" The question landed like a slap because it wasn't "Why are you crying?" or "Are you okay?" or even "We need to talk." It was blame. Immediate, clean blame. I held the phone higher and kept filming his face. "Answer me." His eyes flicked to the screen, then to the hallway behind me. He was calculating exits. He was calculating witnesses. The man leaned against the doorframe and smiled like he'd been waiting for this scene. "Mark," he said, smooth as glass, "you said she wouldn't follow." My husband flinched at his own name in that man's mouth. That tiny flinch did more damage than any confession could have. I stepped back half a pace, enough to keep space between us, enough to keep my phone safe. "Who is he?" My husband's jaw tightened. "Not here." "Not here," I echoed, and it sounded almost funny coming from the guy who'd just been pressed against a wall in a bar's back hallway. "So where?" "In the car while you tell me you're at the office again?" His nostrils flared, and he did that thing he always did when he needed to look calm. He inhaled slowly, like he was steadying himself for my emotions. "It's not what you think," he said. Behind him, the man gave a quiet laugh, like that line was adorable. My stomach turned. "Then tell me what it is." My husband opened his mouth and closed it again. No words. Just that split second of blank panic. The man took a step forward, and suddenly he was too close, his presence filling the narrow hall like smoke. He glanced at my phone, then at my face, then back at my husband. "She's pretty," he said, like I wasn't standing there. "I get why you chose her." "Chose?" My throat tightened so hard it hurt. "Chose me for what?" My husband snapped. "Stop." The man lifted both hands in mock surrender, but his eyes stayed on me, bright and cold. "Relax," he said. "You're getting your answers. Just not the ones you rehearsed in your head." The word rehearsed made my cheeks burn because it was true. I had rehearsed. Lila's name. Lila's face. The dramatic moment where I caught them and everything made sense. This didn't make sense. This felt like stepping through a door and realizing the whole house behind it was built wrong. My husband moved closer again, voice dropping into that quiet tone meant to control me. "Put the phone down." I didn't. The red dot kept blinking. His gaze went to the end of the hallway, where the bar noise bled in faintly. He was scared someone would see. Not scared of losing me. Scared of being exposed. The man's smile thinned. "Don't touch her," he said to my husband, and there was something in that, ownership, warning, intimacy, that made my skin crawl. My husband's head snapped toward him. "Don't start." "Then don't lie," the man replied, still looking at me. "Because she's recording. And you're terrible at lying when you're cornered." I almost laughed, but it came out as a short, broken breath. My husband's eyes found mine again. "This is private." "You made it my life," I said. "You brought it home. You put it on my table next to the ultrasound." His face flickered at that. For half a second I saw guilt. Then it shut off. He reached again, faster, and his fingers caught my wrist. His grip wasn't painful, but it was firm enough to remind me he was stronger. Firm enough to make my body go rigid with adrenaline. The man's hand shot out and grabbed my husband's forearm. I said, "Don't touch her." My husband yanked away like he'd been burned. "Don't act like you care." "Oh, I care," the man said softly. "I care about you not doing something stupid right now." Stupid. Like hitting me. Like making a scene. Like letting anyone see what this was. My husband's eyes darted again toward the bar, and I saw the calculation shift. He wasn't trying to convince me anymore. He was trying to manage fallout. A door down the hall opened, and someone's footsteps approached. My husband straightened, face smoothing into normal. The man stepped back, giving him space, like they'd rehearsed this too. A bartender appeared, frowning at all of us. "Everything okay back here?" My husband smiled. It was horrifying how fast he could do it. "Yeah," he said, calm and friendly. "Sorry, misunderstanding." The bartender's eyes slid to me, to my phone, to my hood, to my tight grip on the device like it was the only solid thing in my world. "Ma'am?" My husband's voice softened into something almost tender. "She's upset. She followed me. She thinks," he let out a small, tired chuckle, like I was being ridiculous, "she thinks I'm cheating." The bartender's expression shifted, sympathetic, toward him. I felt my face go hot with humiliation. My husband's lie was so clean it almost made me doubt my own eyes. The man behind him murmured, "God, you're good." My husband's jaw twitched, but he kept his smile. I lifted my phone slightly, angling it so the bartender could see the screen. The video showed the open door, my husband flushed, the man adjusting his collar, both of them framed like a confession. "He texted me he was at the office," I said, voice shaking but loud enough. "While he was here." My husband's smile faltered for the first time. The bartender leaned closer, squinted at the screen, then looked at my husband. The sympathy drained out of his face. My husband's eyes sharpened, and I watched him choose a new tactic in real time. He took a step toward the bartender, palms up, like he was calming a situation. "Look," he said, "this is complicated. Can we not do this here?" The bartender's gaze flicked to the man. "Sir, you need to leave." The man didn't move. He just looked at my husband. "Tell her," he said, voice suddenly flat. "Right now." My husband's eyes widened a fraction, and I caught it, the fear. Not of me, of him. "What?" I asked, and my voice cracked. The man's attention snapped back to me. For the first time, his expression wasn't amused. It was almost tired. "He promised," he said. "He promised he'd stop using you as a shield." Shield. My husband lunged then, quick, and slapped his hand over my phone screen. The video went black. His other hand closed around the device, trying to wrench it from me. I twisted, held on, and in the scramble my thumb hit the screen. Share, send, something, pure panic muscle memory. I heard the tiny whoosh of a message leaving, and I didn't even know who it went to. My husband froze like he'd heard it too. The bartender stepped between us, voice hard now. "Hey, hands off." My husband backed away immediately, palms up again, innocence reassembled. He looked at me with that warning stare, the one that meant I was making it worse, I was embarrassing us, I was going to regret this. The man exhaled slowly, then leaned in toward my husband, close enough that only they could hear, but I still caught the words because the hallway was tight and my world was on fire. "Monday," the man said. "If you don't tell her by Monday, I will." My husband's face went pale. I stood there, shaking, while the bartender ushered them toward the back exit like he was breaking up a fight between strangers. My husband kept glancing at me, not with remorse, but with dread, like I'd become a problem he needed to solve. They disappeared through the back door, and the hallway suddenly felt too bright, too empty, like the building had swallowed them whole. My phone buzzed in my hand. A new message notification popped up, and I barely saw the sender before my vision blurred. It was from an unknown number. No words. Just a photo. My husband, shirtless, in a hotel mirror, and behind him, half in frame, unmistakable, the man from the elevator, grinning like he'd finally won. I stared at the screen until my hand stopped shaking and started going numb, and the red exit sign above the hallway door smeared into a single bleeding line of light. The photo sat on my screen like a bruise you can't hide. I didn't even realize I was walking until I was outside, the cold air slicing into my lungs, my head down, my hair loose, my face exposed to anyone who wanted to look. My hands kept tightening around my phone like if I squeezed hard enough it would turn back into a normal night. Another buzz. Unknown number again. "Don't let him delete anything." My stomach flipped. I typed, "Who are you?" 3 dots. Then, someone he promised he'd stop lying to. My vision tunneled. The man. He was texting me. He'd taken the photo, or he'd had it saved, like ammunition. I got into my car and locked the doors even though no one was near me. My fingers moved fast, opening the shared location. Mark's dot was moving, fast, heading away from the bar, toward home. Of course. The moment he lost control, he ran to the place where he could rewrite the story first. I drove too fast, every light feeling personal. My mind kept trying to build a clean explanation. He's gay, he's confused, he's scared, it's a mistake. But the keycard, the deposits, the texts, that wasn't confusion. That was logistics. When I pulled into our driveway, his car was already there. The house lights were on. He'd turned them on, every room, like brightness could erase what he'd done. I walked in, and he was in the kitchen with his phone in his hand, thumb moving in a frantic rhythm. He looked up like he'd been waiting to pounce. "Give me your phone," he said. Not hello. Not please. Not I'm sorry. I held mine up. "You first." His jaw tightened. "You're not doing this." "Doing what?" I stepped closer, and I heard how steady my voice suddenly was, like something in me had snapped into place. "Recording you? Catching you? Existing in the same world as your lies?" He lunged for my phone again, and I flinched, and he stopped himself at the last second like he remembered how that would look. He forced a calmer tone. "Who did you send it to?" So he heard the whoosh. I stared at him. "So you admit there's something to hide." He swallowed, eyes flicking to the hallway, to the living room, to the table, where the ultrasound photo still sat under my placemat like a silent witness. "This isn't about you," he said, and the words were so cruelly wrong I actually laughed once, sharp. "It's literally about me," I said. "You cheated on me." His face hardened. "It's not cheating." That's when my skin went cold. Not because I believed him, but because I realized he'd already decided what reality he wanted. I lifted my phone and opened the photo again, turned it so he couldn't look away. "Then what is this?" His eyes landed on the image, and something ugly flickered there, fear, anger, and a fast calculation. He stepped closer, voice low. "Delete it." "No." He leaned in like he was about to whisper an apology, and instead he hissed, "You don't understand what you're messing with." My stomach dropped. "With what?" Him? His silence was answer enough. He moved past me toward the living room, and I followed, and suddenly he was at the router cabinet, yanking it open like he was stripping wires out of a bomb. He unplugged it, then grabbed his laptop from his bag. "What are you doing?" I asked. He didn't look at me. "Fixing this." Fixing. Like I was a problem in his system. My phone buzzed again. Unknown number. "Ask him about the condo." I stared at the message until my throat tightened. "The condo?" I repeated out loud. Mark's hands froze over the keyboard. Slowly, he turned his head, and the color drained from his face so fast it was almost theatrical. His mouth opened, closed, then he forced a laugh that sounded like it hurt. "What condo?" he said. But his eyes were begging me not to say it again. I stepped closer, and my voice went quiet, deadly. "What condo, Mark?" He swallowed hard, and for the first time tonight, he looked at me like he was cornered by something bigger than shame. Like money, like paperwork, like a life he'd been building without me. And upstairs, our bedroom door sat slightly open, and I could already picture the spare keycard hidden somewhere inside, waiting like a second mouth to feed. My husband didn't answer right away, and that pause was louder than any confession. He shut his laptop with a sharp click and stood up too fast, like he could physically block the question. "You're spiraling," he said. "Whoever's texting you is messing with you." "My phone didn't invent a condo," I said. "Neither did the keycard. Neither did your office text." He took one step closer, then stopped when I didn't back up. His eyes flicked to my hand, to the phone, to the camera lens like it was a gun. "Delete everything," he said again, voice hard. "Right now." I held my phone tighter. "Tell me the truth." He laughed once, bitter. "The truth? The truth is you don't get to ruin my life because you saw a moment." "A moment," I echoed, and my throat burned. "You were in a back hallway with your shirt half unbuttoned." He rubbed his face like I was exhausting him. "It's not cheating." That line again, like it was a shield. Like if he said it enough, it would become law. My phone buzzed. Unknown number. One last message. "Check the mail. The deed's in your name too." I stared at the words until my vision sharpened into anger. "Our mail," I said slowly. "You didn't think about that, did you?" His eyes widened a fraction, and he moved, fast, toward the front door. I beat him to it. I yanked it open and grabbed the stack from the mat, fingers ripping through envelopes like paper could bleed answers. Bills. Flyers. A thick white envelope with embossed lettering. My name. His name. A bank logo. My hands went cold as I opened it and pulled out the papers. Property documents. A purchase. A condo I'd never seen. A down payment big enough to make me dizzy. And my signature. Or something pretending to be it. I looked up at him, and he looked at the papers like they were a dead body. "You forged me," I whispered. His mouth opened, and for a second I thought he might finally break and beg. Instead he went rigid, and his voice turned flat. It was easier. Easier. Not "I'm sorry." Not "I panicked." Just easier. I started laughing again, but it came out wrong, cracked. "So you bought a secret condo, put me on it without telling me, and you're telling me it's not cheating." He stepped forward, palms out, calm voice back on like a switch. "Listen, you're pregnant. Stress isn't." "Don't," I snapped, and the word hit the walls like a slap. "Don't use my body as your excuse." His eyes flashed. "You don't understand what that place is for." I lifted the papers. "Then explain it." He hesitated. "Just long enough." That's when the doorbell rang. One clean chime. Mark went pale. His gaze flicked to the window, then to me, and I saw it, the terror. Not of me anymore. Of whoever was on the porch. I didn't ask permission. I walked to the door and opened it. The man from the bar stood there like he belonged, coat on, hair perfect, holding a small overnight bag in one hand and a folder in the other. Behind him, a moving van idled at the curb with its lights on. His eyes met mine, and there was no amusement left. Just certainty. "Hi," he said softly. "I'm sorry it had to be like this." Mark's voice cracked behind me. "Get out." The man didn't even look at him. He held up the folder toward me. "He told me you knew. He told me you agreed." I took it with shaking hands and opened it. A lease. Photos. Messages printed out. Dates, deposits, hotel charges. A neat timeline of my husband's second life. At the top, one line highlighted in yellow. "Tell her by Monday, or I will." I turned to Mark. His mouth worked like he was trying to find a lie that would survive paper. I raised my phone, thumb hovering over the screen, and finally hit send, forwarding the video, the photo, the documents to my own email, my sister, my lawyer contact I'd saved months ago just in case and prayed I'd never use. Mark took a step toward me, desperation breaking through. "Please, don't." I looked at him, really looked, and all I saw was a man who'd been building exits while I was building a family. I handed him the condo papers like they were garbage. "Pack a bag," I said, "since you love Key so much." His face crumpled, but he didn't move. So the man did. He stepped past me into the house, set his overnight bag down by the door, and pulled a second keycard from his pocket, fresh, clean, identical to the one I'd found. He placed it on the ultrasound photo on the table with 2 fingers, like a final signature. Then he walked back out, and Mark followed him without a word, barefoot, still trying to pretend this was something he could control. I stood in the doorway and watched my husband climb into the moving van's passenger seat like it was a getaway car. The van pulled away, its red taillights smearing down the street. On my kitchen table, under the bright house lights he'd turned on to erase everything, the keycard sat on top of our baby's shadow, perfectly still.